Welcome to the Jaros Health Podcast, where we make it easy for you to better serve older adults. This is the weekly Jerry on Ice segment that is a collaboration with the Institute of Clinical Excellence, the official Con Ed provider for the Jaros community. All right, folks. My name is Dustin Jones. Good morning. This is PT on Ice Daily Show brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. We are live on Instagram. We're live on Facebook. For y'all listening on the podcast, thank you for doing that. But y'all should watch these videos sometimes. They're pretty good stuff. So today is Wednesday, so that means it's Jerry on Ice. So this is where we talk about all things older adults, usually with me, Dustin Jones, or my partner in crime, Christina Previtt. We both teach modern management of the older adult. We just wrapped up our last cohort, the online cohort. Awesome group of people. 8 weeks went by super quick, and now we're starting our next cohort on March 18th, the same day that the fitness athlete guys are starting their next online course. I'll throw a link in the comments so y'all can check that out. But today I wanted to talk about discharging well. Good morning, Megan. I've had, I think, 5 discharges over the past week, and I've had lots of opportunities to practice this, to hopefully be successful at it, and probably, screwed up a couple times. And it just had me really thinking. One in particular was I had a discharge. This was about 3 weeks ago. And I'm doing the start of care evaluation today because the gentleman had a fall yesterday. And I know every geriatric PT thinks, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? Which may, sometimes that may be effective. Sometimes, you just can't do much. But we should always reflect. And this had me thinking about what could I have done a little differently with this individual and, maybe the others that I have as well. Because we often have so much focus on our evaluation, our course of care, that we don't really know what to do with the discharge. It can kind of be this lull moment in the whole rehab process. So I just wanted to take some time to really talk about that. Now, to preface this whole conversation, I think I want to bring up the concept of being a guide, not a hero. That's really a foundational principle that I think a lot about in my interactions as a physical therapist. And this comes actually from a branding and marketing group called Story Brand. But the whole preface of what they try and do in their material is that they try to be the guide in the hero's story, and their hero is their customer. For me, my hero is the patient, and I'm just a guide along their journey. So I'm making sure that they know, where they've come from, but also where they are going. I am a guide on their journey. It's not about me, it's about them. And that's going to lay the foundation for how, I think about discharges at least. So there's 4 main points, and we'll just kind of go through these, and I'll go over them right now. So 1, a good discharge starts with a good evaluation. Number 2, review change at discharge. Number 3, discharge is not the end of the road, but just a section of the journey. And then 4, want to go over a little peek in theory, which Jeff Moore geeks out about a lot. So the first one, a good discharge starts with a good evaluation. I think a good question to ask here is, have you set yourself up for failure or success? Did you get kind of sloppy in your evaluation? Did you get actual good, clean data or asterisk signs or some good data with your functional objective measures? Because I'm sure all you outpatient folks are doing that with your older adults. at least I hope so. But did you get some good data? Did you get some good numbers? Were you able to build that therapeutic alliance? Were you able to build the bike, like we say a lot here at ICE? Were you able to demonstrate change to show people tangibly how you can make their lives better? Were you able to do that at the beginning of your course of care? But then most importantly, were you able to lay out that journey for people? What are their expectations going forward as they are working with you? Do they know at this point we will be successful? Do they have clear goals that you all work together as a team? These are all things that we should be thinking about in our evaluation process. Maybe not the first day, but at least that first few interactions that we have with our folks, just to set those expectations down and then actually know where we are going. And when you get to this point, this is what you're going to do next. And I know in my world, in the home health world, and I know other, especially in geriatrics, where we could see people for, I've seen some patients on a caseload over 6 months. They can get kind of get muddy. They may not expect, when PT is going to end. They think it's just going to last forever, especially if the therapist doesn't make it very clear. But we have to, say, when you get to this point, you're going to be advancing to this, or we're going to transition into this, role, or this person is going to be, directing your care. Setting those expectations on the front end can make your life a whole lot easier on the back end. So a good discharge starts with a good evaluation. Start well. So number 2, review change at discharge. It is very easy to work your tail off all the way through that course of care, get the changes that you want to see, your patient's doing awesome, and that last day comes and you kind of check the boxes, go through their home exercise program and see it, come back if you have any pain. We don't want to do that. We want to make this an amazing experience for that person and not waste that visit. And one way that we can leverage that time is to review the change at discharge to really set yourself up as the person for them to solve their problems. It's very easy for our patients to not remember how far they've come or the changes that they've made, and it is our job to show them to do that. There's several ways that we can do this. One is a simple, you can make a simple graph to show changes in range of motion, in strength, in gait speed, timed up and go, SPPB scores, whatever outcome measure that you use. You could use a visual graph. There's some numbers in Google Sheets real quick, and boom, you've got a graph that you can show them to make sense of X percentage difference in an outcome measure. You can demonstrate differences. There's some times where I've actually demonstrated, okay, here's how slow you were walking with your timed up and go. And we'll do, the 22-second timed up and go where I'm kind of pacing them. And then we'll do, their true timed up and go, that may be like 13 seconds or something. They're able to really feel and sense the difference and realize how far they've come. You can also show videos. Before and after videos are great, or even pictures if that's applicable. But I take lots of videos of my patients and show them their gait patterns or how hard it was to get up out of a chair. And, those videos really speak for themselves. So don't leave it up to your patients to remember how far they've come. Show them, make it clear, make it very simple. And that can be a very, very powerful experience for them. So number 3, discharge is not the end of the road, but just a section of the journey. In Jerry PT, we spend a lot of time with people for a long period of time. And, you basically become a member of the family. It can be a really rough breakup when you're discharging. It can be quite traumatic for some people, especially in home health, where they may not have much of a social support system. But we have to make it very clear that this is not, the end of the road, but just one section of the journey that you're on. And I'm one guide along that journey. I'm going to do my best to make sure that, you're going to be taken care of. So I think, you set the expectations clearly up front so that you prevent a lot of this, so people know that this is just, it's not the end of the road. But what I think about is how have you set them up for the rest of their journey? So what have you done specifically for them? I know, maybe the outpatient folks, you've gotten someone, you've reduced their low back pain, for example. Now they can bend down and put their shoes on and tie their shoes without pain. That's awesome. But what if they still can only deadlift, 5 pounds off the ground? What if their capacity hasn't increased to where they are, at risk for, doing basically max rep efforts for activities of daily living? How have you set them up down the road for their journey? Did you set them up with maybe someone in the fitness industry or personal trainer or a CrossFit box where they could continue to increase their capacity? So we got to think about, how are we impacting their journey? This is where I like to think of the elements. Hat tip to Mike and the APHPT crew and Allie. How have you impacted their movement, their fuel, their endure, their recover, connect piece of those things? Go beyond the home exercise program and think big picture here. Recover, connect. And I think also to consider less is more with this. It's very easy to kind of, vomit all this stuff on these people last day. You need to make sure you're sleeping well, you're eating lots of veggies, you're moving, at least 150 minutes at a moderate pace, blah, blah, blah. You could be overwhelming to a lot of people, but we need to be very selective in how we can influence them. For the home health folks, it may be something like ensuring that they're registered with Meals on Wheels, for example, or maybe bringing a social worker in or referring to different professionals. So how are you impacting their journey past discharge? Think big picture. And interestingly enough, this may be more of an outcome measure for how our value is measured. There's a recent episode on an SRP that Meg Lowry, she interviewed an occupational therapist researcher that looks at life space. So your life space is basically measured by something like your cell phone. to where they are able to see, kind of where you go, how far are you walking, how big is your world that you're living in. And what we're seeing with a lot of older adults, the world shrinks and shrinks and shrinks to where their life space is literally maybe only their apartment and their assisted living facility, to where they're not even walking to the dining hall now. And that correlates to, risk for falls, risk for functional decline. And they can see, how did physical therapy impact someone's life space? And when we start to think about life space, we need to think about so many different factors than just someone's, range of motion at their shoulder, for example, or their pain at their shoulder. We need to think big picture, and how can you impact that on their journey? That was a really cool episode. I'll put a link in the comments to this post. And then last but not least, peak in theory. So the peak in theory is the theory that people largely remember experiences based on the peak experience, but then also the end. And in so many times in physical therapy, the end of the course of care, there's not much to go home about. It's a super quick visit. You review the home exercise program. It's usually very, very short, and they're out the door, and you say, okay, thanks, fill out this survey, and just come back at me if you have any issues. What if we thought about that last visit a little differently? Good morning, Avery. What if we thought about that discharge as an opportunity to really wow our patients? What if we could make the end experience a highlight of their course of care? And one example of this is not a physical therapy example. This is something I experienced yesterday, is the PR bell. So at the CrossFit gym where I go, they have a big bell right by the sign-in board or the whiteboard. And you ring it if you get a PR that day, and you do it at the end of class, and everyone just goes berserk and starts screaming and clapping. And I got my first ring muscle up. So I kind of quietly went up to the board, wrote my time for the workout, and then just kind of ding, ding, ding. And I didn't do it with some gusto. And people just started cheering and ranting and raving. And it was awesome. I will never forget that experience. It was a super cool moment for me. And I think about, how can we do that in the physical therapy world? So whether it's, you have a graduation ceremony or some type of celebration or a gift or some type of surprise, that's something that they're not expecting, a special handshake. I don't know what it could be, but just something that's unique to your clinic or your practice, to where you can really make that end experience more of a celebration that they're continuing on in their journey, to further pursue health. So just think about that. People, they don't remember probably 90% of their interactions with you, but they're going to remember that peak experience and probably that end experience. So let's do the best that we can to really make that worthwhile. So to recap, how to discharge well. A good discharge starts with a good evaluation. We want to review, change, and discharge and demonstrate their change to make it very clear for them. Don't leave it up to them to remember how far they've come. We want to remember that discharge is not the end of the road, but just a section of the journey. And then last but not least, apply peak in theory to that last visit that you have with folks. So that's what I've got. Been thinking a lot about this just with the discharges that I've had. And I'm going to go evaluate that individual that had a fall yesterday. So thank you all for listening. So a couple quick announcements. This Monday, so the 18th, Modern Management of the Older Adult, the online cohort starts. And then Clinical Management of the Fitness Athlete Essentials course starts as well. 2 online courses. If you are interested in the fitness athlete, if you're interested in better serving older adults, sign up, ptonice.com. Also, a bunch of us are heading up to Fenton, Michigan, to the mecca of CrossFit Fenton and Health HQ to hang out with Alan and Mitch and Zach. I know Jeff Moore's coming in, Zach Morgan, Christina Previtt. Me and my wife are going in. Jordan Berry's coming, a bunch of folks. So it's going to be a blast for CMFA Live. So we would love to see you all up there if you're able to make. I know that's kind of last second, but it's going to be an awesome course. Other than that, I'm out. I'll see you all in a couple weeks. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the weekly Jerry on Ice segment of the Jeros Health Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, you should go to jeroshealth.com to check out our course offerings that will make it easy for you to better serve older adults. Once again, that's GEROS health.com and click on the courses tab. Thanks for listening.